need you all night. Come on, dance with me. I'm levitating.
Starts your day with 93.1 Kiss FM.
It's October. Boo! So we're keeping it spooky on Mornings with Mike and Iris. Our guest this morning is Heather Shade. Heather is the founder of Lost Paranormal Paranormal. But let's find out a little more about you, Heather, and your credentials in this paranormal world.
Hello.
So could you pull up a little closer to the microphone?
Yes,
put the
hi.
microphone there. Yeah.
Hi, guys.
Much better. There
Good
she
morning.
is. Good morning.
Glad to be back and see you guys again.
It's been a minute.
Yeah, I haven't been here in a while, but it's good to see your beautiful faces. Nice to meet you.
We got a new face since you were last here.
Yes.
That's how much of a minute it's been.
I know, it has been.
Yeah, because how long has it been? Over a year for sure. We're going on a year and a half now, aren't you? Yeah, so it has been a minute, but we're glad to have you back during the spooky
Thank you
season.
for having me.
So Lost El Paso Paranormal, you're a founder of that group.
Right.
And so you do a lot of downtown ghost walks and cemetery ghost walks.
Right. We do, we're the guys that do kind of the historical side of the ghost tours. We're the storytellers. We're the collectors of the folklore, the experiences of El Pasoans that encounter spirits. We collect all those tales and we kind of share those with, the public and let them know what's going on in the spirit world.
Cool.
And it's also the only paranormal group that does stuff like in, for lack of a better word, in costume. I'm sure there's another
Right.
way
We
to
try.
put it,
We try to bring the vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah. We try to kind of bring, and we also invite our guests if you want to. You can come in costume. Like we do 20s themed tours. We're doing a vampires themed tour. We all dress up. So it's just kind of a way to further get into, especially at this time of year, get into the spirit and have a little fun with it. So yeah, that's something else we do.
Recently, this past weekend, you all did the Sunset Heights Ghost Walk, right?
Right, on Friday the 13th.
Friday the 13th.
Yes.
Yes.
Ooh, how was that?
And one of the places that you guys walk your attendees through, or two, I should say, because I think people live there, right? The Hickson House?
The Hickson House, it actually has a caretaker. And they use it. They've used it over the years for different variety of purposes. Like it used to host the classic film, the El Paso Film Club used to meet there and show films. And they recently had it featured in the Sunset Heights Tour of Homes. So it's a very historical property. Yeah.
And supposedly haunted. Because we're
Yes.
talking haunted houses this morning with Heather,
Yes.
but not the attractions. You know,
like the houses
but
that
these
have
are like
spirits.
real
Yeah,
life
it
haunted
is.
houses,
Right.
supposedly, allegedly. What's the story behind the Hickson House?
Well, the Hickson House is, if you've ever seen a photo of it, first of all, it's gorgeous, beautiful home. It did belong in the 1890s to a jeweler by the name of W.T. Hickson. And the house looks like that. I mean, it's beautifully appointed. It's just, a treasure. We first got involved with it when we were working back with Henry Flores, who I know you know.
Yes,
The
yes.
godfather of
I
the
call him the
paranormal,
Godfather,
right?
that's right.
Here in El Paso, he is the paranormal guy.
Yeah, Henry was ghost busting way before anybody was doing it.
He originated it for sure. When we were working with him some years back, they called us in that organization because they were having some issues, literally, with the ghosts and with the spirits. It was when they were having their films. So they'd be trying to watch a movie and the movie be turning off and on. They'd be hearing, footsteps upstairs when there's no one up there. And that's a little disturbing when you're trying to host films and host discussions of the films.
Heather, that's a little disturbing no matter what you're doing in the house.
Right. Well, to us, that's just like, Saturday. But
Like, hey, what up, ghost?
yeah. But I mean, you're trying to, host a serious, event about your films. And then here you've got the ghost coming through and disturbing. That's how we first came into the knowledge that there was stuff happening there other than just history. And, we've come to hear quite a few interesting stories about that place. I could tell you guys a few.
Yes, please.
do.
Okay. The first one that I heard that it was one of my favorites was that at one point in time, there was a young woman that had moved into that neighborhood from out of town, and she would jog in the mornings. So she got into her habit of jogging, and she would pass across the street in front of the Hickson house on her jog. So every morning when she's jogging by, she would see this lovely older woman with beautiful white hair in a bun sitting on the porch of that house having her coffee. And the lady would always make a point to say good morning and wish her a good morning. So the young lady reported to us that after, a couple of weeks of this, she says, now that I'm settled in, I'm going to go meet my neighbors and, introduce myself around. I'm going to start with that lovely lady. She's the first one to welcome me. I'm going to bring her some cookies for her cafecita, for her coffee. So she shows up with a little batch of cookies that she bought, knocks on the door and says, hi, I'm here to introduce myself and to bring cookies for the lady that has her coffee out here. And the young lady opening the door says, which lady? And she says, the lady that's here in the early mornings with the white hair. I brought her some cookies. And the young lady looks at her in silence and says, ma'am, you are describing my mother, but she had passed last year.
Oh my goodness.
So, this girl was like, whoa. She was very startled to find that out.
Boy, I'll bet.
So, but it did turn out, as we talked to the family, they said that was a former resident of the home, they believed, and a lady that had lived there for quite some time and had an attachment to the place. Yeah.
And a home that stately, that's been around that long, you would have an attachment to something like that.
Yes, and you can tell it's a very well-loved home.
Yeah.
I mean, you would get attached to it.
But no family lives there currently?
Not that I know of. Like I said, they have like a caretaker that has watched over it, who lives in there. They have like a room in there, like a quarters in there. And I know they've used it for things over the years for different historical, events and things like that.
Have you ever spoken to the caretaker?
The current, no.
The current? They turn over that fast?
Yeah. See, that's another thing. Yeah, exactly. The caretaker that used to live there, it was pretty cool because when we used to do our Sunset Heights tour, they were familiar with us from our investigations of the home.
Uh-huh.
We investigated it twice with Henry.
What did you find?
Well, the spookiest thing that we did experience when we investigated was we were up in the attic. There's an attic there. So the attic is very spooky naturally.
Yeah.
Attics are spooky anyway.
Attics and basements.
Yeah. And this attic is especially just has a spooky vibe to it. So we were up there and we were all sitting on the floor and we were doing what we call an EVP session, which is where we run recorders and we ask questions and wait to record a response that we might hear later. So we were all doing the EVP session, and as we were sitting there in the dark in the attic, we heard a little giggle. It sounded like a childlike, like a little girlish giggle from a closet behind us. So naturally, we all turned around and looked, and we said, did you guys hear that? And everybody got up. We checked the closet. There was nothing in there but a couple of hangers. It was empty, okay? So then about 5 minutes later, we had another crew member come up the stairs to tell us, okay, we're going to all congregate downstairs. But as she came up, she walked in and she gasped. She's like, and we said, what? And she said, oh my gosh, I saw a little girl peeking out the door of the closet behind you guys.
And she knew nothing about the giggle that you all had heard.
Right. She had been downstairs during that.
Oh, wow.
So the creepiest footnote to this story is that, that was creepy enough, okay?
Yeah,
we got
boy.
out of there after that. We were like, ooh, okay. But the creepiest footnote to the story is that later on, upon going back and we're, reviewing our evidence, our video footage, our recordings, and that little giggle did come out in the audio.
Oh, nice.
It was captured, and that's something that Henry has. That's part of his massive collection of evidence.
Yeah.
But yeah, we did. We almost, had a little mini, heart attack of shock when we heard that on the recording. Because, sometimes you can hear things in the moment that might be something else.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your mind can play tricks on you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But when you go back and you hear a very distinct ghostly giggle.
Oh,
And it was exactly the way you heard it in real time.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You're not imagining things.
Yeah, that's the spooky part about doing investigation. And that kind of stuff doesn't happen often. So that's why it's even more like, impactful when it does.
Yeah.
It really gives you a shock.
Yeah. We're spending time with Heather Shade. She is the founder of Lost El Paso Paranormal, the author of Weird Texas, and we're talking haunted houses. So when we come back, we'll talk about a couple of other haunted houses that are also on the west side. What is up with the west side? Probably because, downtown has been around for so long, right?
Yes.
It's got so many years of history. There's a couple of
Right.
other homes on the west side that maybe you've heard about. The Patterson House, have you heard about that one? What about the Witch's House? I've heard so many things about the Witch's House, but I don't really know what fact or fiction is any longer. So we'll let Heather sift through that next on Mornings with Mike and Iris.
The next generation of streaming is here. Introducing Spectrum One Stream.
To or does live there.
Right. It's like I said, it's a folklore that's very embedded in the El Paso culture. It's a house that I get questions about quite regularly. And like you said, people ask me, well, how did it start or where did it come from? I don't even know. Like you were saying earlier, talking about places on the west side, we talk about the cemetery, or we talk about downtown. These are haunted hotspots. But something I've been noticing within recent years is the mountain. The mountain has like these ties to all these places that have activity. And so now I'm starting to notice this pattern, whether it's Sunset Heights, whether it's, up on Rim Road or up on, even Trans Mountain. There's so many things that are tied to our mountain as well. So that's something else to consider.
Yeah. Well, what do you think the mountain has to do with it?
I mean, if you look in paranormal theory, it can be anything from
Aliens.
Well, yeah, aliens. We've been talking about that too lately. But also just the composition of the mountain itself. There are beliefs that certain types of minerals and such can be conductors of paranormal activity.
Yes, I've heard that one.
Right. So that makes me wonder if somehow our mountain can have some sort of an effect on that, because we sure do seem to have a lot of haunted locations in our mountain specifically, So it's something to think about.
Now, one of the also another house, and this one gets mistaken a lot for the witch's house,
Right.
Because it's almost in the same area.
Right.
They call it the Patterson house because a family with the last name of Patterson used to live there many years ago, and it's a big mystery to this day. So, tell us about that one next when we come back.
Okay.
We'll hip you to the Patterson house. You look a little perplexed, Iris. You've never heard about the Patterson house?
I haven't heard of. I haven't heard of a bunch of, and that's why I'm creating stories in my head. I love that. Like, I love listening to those kind of ghost stories.
Yeah, well, the thing about the Patterson house is, unlike the witch's house, there is a lot of documented stuff.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll talk about that next.
I was crossing the
Part they discovered that, well, we don't know where they're from. We don't know, they're not from El Paso, but where are they from? We're not sure. Or do they have family? Do they have siblings? Where are their parents? Nobody knew. So that definitely added on to that mystery as well.
Then I heard that there was one, and correct me if I'm wrong, that they were taken by the mothership.
Right. Yes, that's another one. Since you mentioned, UFOs a little bit earlier, that is something that we talk about in some of our, little park meetups that we do. We talk about UFOs a lot because a lot of that activity does center around our mountains. So that naturally was something that people brought up, like maybe it was an alien abduction. Maybe, they themselves were involved in something that, was undercover or something.
Yeah,
So
because
that
remember,
was-
again, this is the 50s.
Right,
And
and
remember,
that was
50s
very-
was like Roswell era.
Right, right.
You
There
know,
was a lot of
so
that stuff going around there. Yeah,
Flying
at the time.
saucers were hot at that time. I mean, even hotter than they are now.
And a lot of people don't realize this, but the same week that Roswell happened, the week predating that, we had a whole rash of UFO sightings here in El Paso, Texas, and in Juarez, Mexico. There was 7 in one day in Juarez. And this was just a few days before Roswell. And the reason why this never made bigger news was because of Roswell.
Yeah, it kind of overshadowed everything.
Right. So, I mean, this is at a time when El Paso was having its own UFO, kind of craze going on. So that played into the rumors as well.
And then there's the more nefarious one,
Right.
the murder theory.
Right. And that could have gone several ways because, they did end up finding out that Mr. Patterson, as clean cut as he seemed, he actually did have a girlfriend over in Mexico. And she was a young lady. She was only about 18 years old. And the reason why this came out was because he had taken her on a date in Juarez and he had tried to buy her a drink and they wouldn't serve her. And he got into a fight.
Ooh, no.
And so one of his neighbors, one of his friends, he had to call to come pick him up.
Mm.
So then that came out that, he has this little girlfriend. So then it became maybe did the wife find out and did away with him? Did he do away with the wife?
To be with the
he could-
girl.
or another girl?
Or
Yeah.
the cartel.
Yeah.
Or just, who knows?
Got
At this
him.
point, who knows? At this point,
So many theories now that
Yeah.
you throw that in there.
But-
exactly. Once you throw that in the mix, that opens up a whole
Yeah.
other
Yeah.
myriad of possibilities, plus the business angle. Shortly after they did disappear, there was a strange telegram that was sent that was supposedly from Mr. Patterson saying, I've taken a vacation. I want you to sign everything over to a friend of mine, my business and everything. But the strange part about this was this telegram was sent for Mr. Patterson, but his name, middle and last name were misspelled.
Ha Okay.
So I'm pretty sure you're not going to misspell your own name. So that raised a lot of suspicions that maybe it was someone trying to get their hands onto his business or his property. But again, none of these things have ever been, satisfactorily resolved in any way.
All these decades later, and it's still a mystery.
Yeah, we don't know.
But like the haunted angle to this story is that they were buried somewhere nearby or somewhere on the property.
Well, one of the other kind of shocking things about that plays into the story as well was that was one of the rumors that maybe they had been, disposed of or buried somewhere in the mountainous area around there. And that was why it was kind of sensational some years back when they were doing some work there on a home and they actually did find skeletal remains. And it was on the news and everything because people started to think, oh my gosh, could that be the Pattersons? It was later determined that those remains were well over 100 years old.
Okay.
Our mountains have also been used as burial grounds, as long as they've been there. So this, could also add to, the hauntings and the activity we have there on the mountain. But, we don't know who that could have been. It could have been someone just that was buried such a long time ago. But of course, that's going to add to the fact that this was right behind the home and they're finding human remains.
Yeah.
You've got these people that went missing. There could have potentially been, foul play on the premises. We don't know for sure.
I remember years ago, speaking of Henry Flores, years ago, I remember he investigated that house. And on KissElPaso.com years ago, I'm sure if you search for it, you'll find it. But I wrote an article about the Patterson house and I added to it a few of these clips that Henry had passed on to me, had given me a copy of. And it's kind of weird. I mean, the clips that he had given me, you can hear stuff on there. You can't hear like screeching or...
Yeah, it sounds like a woman, like either crying or maybe
in pain,
shouting, right?
Yeah.
And it sounds like, it doesn't sound close. It sounds like kind of maybe in the next room.
Yeah.
Like a room away from you. You're hearing something a little bit
From
muffled.
a distance.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what he captured on his audio when he walked through there with a recorder.
Right.
And he just did a walkthrough silently through the rooms, and that's what he captured.
Yeah, it's really weird. If you have a minute to search for it on KissElPaso.com, I'm sure it'll pop up if you type in Patterson House, and you can listen to the audio yourself. But that is like why many people believe it to be haunted. That no, he wasn't a spy. No, aliens did not take him. He was murdered, and they were murdered, and they're somewhere in the area, but they still live at their house.
And if you want my personal take on it, I kind of lean towards the business murder theory because the guy that was seen with his car afterwards and was suspected of sending a telegram was a very sketchy guy. And he did disappear shortly after. I mean, he left El Paso and made himself scarce and wasn't found again. So in my opinion, that's probably most likely that maybe he did away with the Pattersons to gain control of their business, but we'll never know.
Yeah, because to this day, it remains a cold case.
Unless something pops up unexpectedly, we won't know. So that captivates a lot of imagination of, a lot of people.
So it's Heather Shade, Lost El Paso Paranormal. A few minutes ago, you mentioned park meetups.
Right.
These are free things that she does.
Right.
And so when we come back, we'll talk about her upcoming park meetup, which is going to be at Escalante Park.
Right.
So I'm sure there's some lore and legend about that place as well. So we'll discuss that next on Mornings with Mike and Iris.
A big, paddle wheel, and it disappeared mysteriously. It was a thing at the time because it was like, where did the river boat go? Where did the River Queen disappear to? So that mystery existed for many, many years and was solved eventually.
Okay.
So we talk about that.
I'm not
about
going to
where that
spoiler
ended
alert
up.
this one, because we're not going to give you the spoiler.
Right.
You want to know what happened with that boat? You go see Heather at the park.
Yeah, so we talk about all that kind of stuff. And then a little bit just in general about river spirits, water spirits, and that kind of stuff.
Besides La Llorona, what other river spirits, water spirits are there?
Interestingly enough, if you look into cultures across the world, they all seem to have a water spirit that is female that cries at the edge of some type of body of water. In Ireland, they have the banshee. She walks along the riverbanks and cries out up and down the riverbanks. If you see her, that's supposed to be...
That's no bueno.
Right, that's
Yeah.
bad luck.
Yeah.
There's also in Asian cultures, they have female water spirits that are with their long dark hair, crying and wailing at the edge of the water.
The ring.
Right. So
Out of the
in
well.
my studies of, as you guys know, I'm very La Llorona obsessed kind of. And in my studies of that, I've been interested to find that this kind of crosses over other cultures. Feminine spirits, weeping and wailing at the edges of water. It's a thing in all cultures, not just ours.
Sounds like me. On a Saturday night.
Right?
I'm just kidding.
But
we
yeah.
already know what Iris is going to come back as.
I'm going to go join your event. I'm going to be there and be like, oh, no, that's just Iris.
What's that weeping and wailing that I'm
That's not
hearing?
what we're talking
Iris.
about. That's just Iris.
That's just Sunday.
Right, that's Iris on Sunday at the lake.
All right, so that's going to be on Sunday. It's meetup,
Right.
paranormal at the park.
Right.
At Escott at the park.
Right.
They don't have an entrance fee anymore, so you're free to get in. And
Right.
where exactly do they meet up with you?
With the thing with our park meetups, we're not always able to arrange an exact spot. So we kind of meet up and we gather at the best spot we can find. One way you guys can always find us is we have a mascot, and it is a skeleton. It is a, life-size human skeleton. His name is Chuco. He's usually dressed in some kind of cool outfit. Now he has a son. We got a little one too.
Oh, congratulations to him.
Thank you. He was born this last weekend. We're calling him Little Chuco. But yeah, so one easy way to spot us if you're looking for us for the park meetups, look for the weirdos that have a couple of life-size skeletons. We have a big sign that says paranormal in the park. For the Escarate meetup, you will find us there on the green that's in between there, where you drive through and the
Yeah.
park.
Okay.
And the lake. We'll just be right in there. You'll be able to see us. We'll have lanterns, skeletons. And if you do have any questions or any issues of finding us, or this goes with any of our tours or anything else, you can always just give us a call.
Yeah. Or find them on social media. Lost El Paso Paranormal on
Yes.
social media, on Facebook. And
We're all over the place.
what's the park one on social media?
We are on Meetup, on the Meetup app under Paranormal in the Park. We also have a Facebook group that you can join of Paranormal in the Park. And we do advertise those events across all of our social media as well. So you should be able to find it on our website, which is lostelpaso.com, or any of our social media.
All right, Heather, thanks for coming by this
Thanks
morning.
so much. I had
Fascinating
fun.
as
Yes.
always.
Thank
Love
you.
you this
Love
time of the
those
year.
stories.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I had a really fun time. Thanks for
Thank
having
you.
me, guys.
It's Heather Shade on 93.1 Kiss FM, Lost El Paso Paranormal.